Did you know that you can take a piece of pure silver and pure gold and mix them with clear glass to get an amazing rainbow of colors? Well, in this video we go over the process on how this is done. It's a process called fuming, and you don't want to miss it. The fume glass pipe from this video is one of my favorites, so be sure to stick around to see how it came out. My name is Sim, and welcome to the Fusing Shop Glassblowing channel. Say hello to our amazingly dull piece of clear tubing. For those of you who want to try this out, I'm using 38mm medium wall tubing. This video is a little bit on the longer side, so I've included timestamps in the description in case you want to skip around. What I'm doing here is I have a small piece of metal, in this case gold, on the end of that glass rod that I'm holding into the flame right now. As you put the metal into the flame, it vaporizes, and if you put the glass in front of it, it'll pick up the color, and that's what you see happening here. The gold makes a pinkish kind of tint on the glass. And now we're gonna fume on the silver. For silver, I use a little bit more propane, and for gold, I use more of an oxygenated flame. So just go ahead and wait for the flame to kind of change color before you put your glass in. It kind of goes like orangey or kind of yellowish. It's hard to explain, but you can see it happening here in the video. And that's when those metals are vaporizing and you can get them to stick to the glass. What we're going to do now is coat the whole tube in clear. I'm using a 3mm clear rod, and I'm going to stripe this down the tube. Go nice and slow. Try to get it as straight and even as you can. And then we flame cut at the bottom. I'm going to go right next to that clear that I just laid down and put another line of clear. And I'm going to continue doing this all the way around this piece until it's fully covered in a layer of clear glass. You want to hold your tube nice and still as you lay down that clear over it. You can see that my one hand is just holding that tube still while the other hand is running the clear down the side. It's a good idea to flash your glass every couple lines to keep the heat in there so you don't get any thermal shocking. I decided to show the whole coating process because I want you to see exactly how this is done from start to finish without any edits. What you want to focus on in this step is making sure that your clear is as even as you can get it. The more even you make the clear in this step, the easier it'll be when we go to melt this all down. While I finish putting on the clear, let's do this video's dad joke. And this video's dad joke is: a Spanish magician tells the audience he'll disappear on the count of 3. He says uno, dos, and disappeared without a trace. I'm sorry, my Spanish accent is horrible, so I do apologize if there's any Spanish speakers watching this. So we are back to normal speed now. I'm just about done putting down this clear. When I am done, what I'm gonna do is on that end that's kind of pointing towards the camera right now, I'm gonna put some clear dots using a 10mm rod. And what that does is it gives us two effects of the fume. The fume being encased by the lines of clear versus the fume being encased by like the globs or the dots of clear. Will give this pipe like a two-tone kind of effect, which looks super cool. And you could feel free to do your own patterns. If you want to make squiggles or you want to wigwag this, that's all possible. This is your art and your creativity, and just feel free to go crazy and do whatever feels good and looks good to you. If you do see any gaps in your clear, now is a good time to go ahead and fill those in. This is the last line of clear going down right now. And I'm going to make sure that I didn't miss any places, and you rotate the tube to make sure that there are no gaps. And if you do find any, quickly fill those in with your clear rod. This is where I'm going to switch over to the 10mm rod to put those clear dots on the end. And what I'm going to first do is flash that glass to make sure to keep the heat in there. And I'm going to turn the end of that rod nice and molten and just drop them in a random pattern. I don't have any specific patterns that I go in. I kind of just go around the perimeter and then kind of just dot randomly towards the center. Very important when you are laying dots like this to use the flame to cut the glass so you don't end up pulling stringers. You can see a little stringer pull each time I make a dot, and that's no problem. Just go ahead, reheat that back into the glass and continue. Now we're going to attach a hot seal punty, which is a gift and a curse, also known as a gurse, because we get to distribute the weight between two hands. But those two hands have to rotate at the same rate to avoid twisting the glass. To make a hot seal, you get both ends nice and juicy hot, which means glowing the same amount of orange in English terms. So get those glowing the same color, and then weld those two together in the flame and make sure it makes a nice seamless connection. I'm using the outer fire my GTT torch because we need to melt in a lot of glass now. In cases like this, it's really nice to have that outer fire for the extra firepower. An important tip is to make sure you use long enough blow tubes and handles so that your hands do not pick up any of the crazy heat that's going on right now. Now my only focus is on melting all of the glass nice and smooth so that we can make this into a pipe. Occasionally I take it out, give it a couple puffs in to even out the walls, and then go right back into the flame. Also use your graphite to help smooth everything in as well. But the flame does like 90% of the melting in and smoothing in this case. If you're still with me, thank you so much for joining me for this video. I do greatly appreciate it, and if you could kindly smash that like button and subscribe button if you ever so choose to, that would be awesome. I do love teaching lamp working and sharing what I know about this awesome art with the world. If you have any comments on how I can make my videos better, please leave them below. People often wonder why glass pipes are so expensive. Well, you're seeing why right now. All of this work is just the prep for the glass spoon that I'm going to be making. It's pretty crazy, right? Now that we have all the clear melted in, we could finally start working on our pipe. Right now I'm heating up that center, getting a nice tapered heat in there, moving the glass back and forth, so that when I stretch this out, it'll make a nice smooth taper from the mouthpiece to the bowl section. You can see when I came out of the flame, I waited a couple seconds before I did the pull. This way we keep that glass nice and thick, so we have a nice thick spoon. Now I'm focusing the heat on the other side, and this I'm going to pull out, and this is going to be where our mouthpiece will be. So I'm just getting some heat in there, trying to get as much of that fume glass as possible, all melted down and usable. And then I'm going to go ahead and come out of the flame and give a gentle pull, and we're going to make another taper. And this taper is going to be where we put our diamond shears to break the pipe off at the end. You can see how nice and beautiful that taper is. And again, my diamond shears are going to go right in the middle of that to crack that off and shock that glass at the end. I'm letting the glass stiffen up a little bit before I remove the punty off the end. You always want to make sure your glass has hardened before you do any of your moves, or else you could risk the glass falling off center. I'm going to flame cut off the punty, and this part here is going to be the bowl section, so I want to save as much fume on the end as possible. And this is where we put all those dots before. And I want to keep as many of those dots as I can because it's going to look really awesome. The more dots you have in there, the more awesome it looks. I'm going to switch over to the outer fire now because I have a lot of thick glass on the end and I want to melt that in all smooth before I go for my puff. And just let all that glass condense down and gather up. They actually make pedals for these GTT torches that make it much easier to go from the outer fire to the inner fire, but I don't have one of those, so I just do everything by hand. So excuse all the hand adjustments as I, adjust the flame every now and then. I am so sorry I did not get the puff on camera. I was trying so hard to get it in, but what you have to do is hold the pipe up in the air and puff, and that gravity will pull that glass down and kind of make an onion shape. You can see it's an onion shape in this shot right here. And I do it more than one time to make sure my walls are nice and even. If your walls are too thick or too thin in certain sections, condense your bubble, reheat, and blow it out again. And again, I'm holding it up to let that glass fall back down, and then just give a puff, puff, puff. All gentle moves. You always want to be gentle with the glass. You never want to muscle the glass or force the glass. We're going to be popping 2 holes in this. The first hole we're going to pop is for the bowl. And I spot heated up a section, and now I'm puffing that out nice and gentle. And you blow the blister first, and then you pop open the blister. I'm going to heat on both sides, 1, 2, puff in the flame so you don't make bubble trash, and boom, that popped open nice and easy. I'm going to make my flame a little bit softer, because now we're going to push the bowl, and I have a bowl push in my left hand ready to go. Heat up around that hole, and just go for the push. If you want to make the bowl deeper, you could go ahead and heat up some more glass and give another push. I like to make a nice deep bowl, so I usually always go for 2 or 3 pushes. And when you get the bowl the size that you want, you are ready to go ahead and pop another hole, and this hole is going to serve as the carb. And I will eventually be making a video on how to use a spoon, for those who don't know. Here we go. And again, I'm going to do the same thing where I spot heat a section, and then I'm going to blow out the blister, and then pop it open in the flame. Here's the spot heat. Got a nice focus flame. Using the bowl push to plug that hole that we just popped so we have air pressure. And boom, it just popped right there. Now I'm going to add some glass as lenses to get a magnifying effect to the fume. We're just about done with this piece. The only 2 moves left to do are to flatten the bottom, so this way the pipe stays stable when you put it down and doesn't roll away on you, and to detach it from our blow tube, and then this will be all set to go. This is where I'm going to flatten the other part of the spoon, opposite where you put your bowl. So just go ahead and spot heat that bottom section. And I like to push mine right on my graphite. And you want to hit that with a flame to polish off any tool marks that might be left behind. Just hit that with a nice annealing flame. Getting ready to make that detachment with the diamond shears. I'm going to heat up that tapered section that I made before, and I'm going to use the diamond shears as a support. Give those a quick flash in the fire, have them at the ready, because this way once that glass becomes molten, I grab it, squeeze it, and then thermal shock that pipe right off the blow tube. Here we go. Now I'm grabbing, giving it a spin. As that glass cools down, I squeeze harder and harder, give it a couple taps, and it should break off nice and clean. Boom, there we go. Final step is to give a nice fire polish to that lip and make sure everything is nice and smooth. Thanks so much again for watching the whole video. I hope you guys found this enjoyable and educational. Please feel free to leave any questions in the comments below. Here is the finished pipe. It came out amazingly awesome. While you're here, why don't you check out another one of our awesome glass blowing tutorials.